So Tom Baker gets, I don't know if it starts in Haiti or if it starts at his studio flat, which obviously is a cameo by Tommy Godfrey from Love Thy Neighbour. And for some stupid reason, knowing the power of his voodoo, he did that test one with the slice of bread, rubbing the corner off the mouse eating it. He knows what voodoo can do. He decides to paint a portrait of himself, which he stupidly puts in an airtight safe. It can't be that airtight because he doesn't start to feel the thing for maybe guessing a good hour or two afterwards. But he also does a painting of Terence Alexander's character, the man who works at the shop where they put at the gallery, and obviously his agent, Denham Elliott. Now he does Terence Alexander first by slitting his eyes, and then we see him having an argument with his wife because she's found out about his latest affair, and he tries to pass it, but you know I love you, and you'll never see another woman again, and shoves some acid in his face, blinding him. So all he's done obviously something very naughty, very, very naughty, in a situation where trust, honesty and faith is paramount. The other bloke, he has an accident with the guillotine, trying to show one of the workers in his shop. And on the last attempt, it falls down and clean slices both his hands off. Now we know that there's probably an 80% chance he could have had his hands sewn on, probably with some great success, because it being a clean cut, and if it had been packed in ice straight away, it would have stood a chance of having the hands reattached. The third one, obviously the one he saves to last. Now, for some strange reason, again, it's part of the plot, he takes his wristwatch off and places it on the desk and says, you've got 3 minutes to live. And then we see Denham Elliott produce a revolver, point it at Tom Baker. And he pulls, it's only a marker. He then draws a red dot, like if it was a Sikh, or maybe a Hindu, I'm not sure, on the forehead. And then we see Denham Elliott struggling to keep the gun from, because he has that feeling now to point it towards him, but he's trying to fight it. But obviously what we see is that the power of voodoo forces Denham Elliott to blow a hole in his head, although we just hear the gunshot. Then he tootles off because he's starting to feel like he's running out of air. Then he realises he's stupidly painted a portrait of himself and put it in the bloody airtight safe. Well, airtight-ish. So it was a battle of time to get back to his room he's rented, his studio that he's renting, to get the painting out of the safe, which he does. Then he realises he's left his watch. Now for me, he could have left that watch there because, like I said, if the police had examined the scene, all they would have found was a wristwatch on the desk, which could have been pointed back to Tom Baker's character, but the fingerprints on the gun would be Denham Elliott's. Suicide. So he could have said, I just took my watch off because I didn't want to get any paint. I wanted to touch his painting. I wasn't getting paint on it, and I left it on the desk. I showed him the portrait and left. But obviously, as he's racing back to visit the office where he's left his watch on the desk, it cuts back to his studio, and we see above this little glass roofed conservatory of this studio that he's renting, there's somebody painting and decorating, and he knocks over a tin of paint thinner, I think, which something causes to smash the glass, and then this paint thinner drips directly onto the portrait of Tom Baker, which face starts to melt. And then, no, actually, we see it crash through, and then we see him run from behind a parked van or lorry to be knocked over by another lorry, and we see, obviously, a dummy being run over by the heavy lorry wheels over his head. Then it cuts back to his studio, and we see his face is melted with a paint thinner on the, on the portrait. And then it shows us after all the stories are done, a door opens onto a little graveyard, and they all start to walk out, and when they get to the bottom they disappear. Then we see Kurt Jurgens saying, "It's the same every night. We are forced to relive our dreams." Now, some probably deserved it more than others. Definitely Daniel Massey's character, because he murdered his sister. Definitely Kurt Jurgens, because he murdered that little Indian lass. So he could try and get that rope trick for free. Except it cost him his wife, who disappeared. We can only guess what she saw in the ceiling of their hotel room. But whoever it was, it could have been either the devil or the gates of hell, because she just vanished into thin air, and then drips of blood started coming down. Then the rope started to attack Kurt Jurgens. So in that scenario, like Tales from the Crypt, the people, once their stories have been concluded and they have discussed their dreams, with Tom Baker being the last, they are already dead. But because maybe Terry Thomas's character drove his new wife to becoming an absolute nut job, whether or not he deserved to die for it, but obviously with his OCD, he drove her to the brink of being being in a padded cell with a straitjacket, because she was shit scared of anything being out of place, and then obviously it kept going on and on and on when she went down and accidentally, in a stressful moment, trashed his beautifully neat workshop in his basement of his bungalow. But Bolt of Horror is one of my favourites. That relaxed sub-basement lounge where they have it, with the seats and the round table and the furniture around it, the cabinets and the drinks decanters. Sub-basement? I didn't know there was sub-basement. I pissed ground. Oh. Well, might as well make the best of it. I think, Vault of Horror is an absolute classic. I think this part 3 concludes Vault of Horror.